John Metchie to the Philadelphia Eagles, and in return, Houston receives tight end Harrison Bryant. Also, should we be prepared for life without Joe Mixon, and how does Nick Haley currently view the running back room for Houston?
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, from H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode is for Texan fans all around. I'm your Texans football analyst and credential media member, John Hickman. Thank you to all of the everydayers from the Himalayas coming back to listen or watch the show on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you're a first-time guest, come on in, get comfortable, and let's talk Texans together. I'll be diving into the YouTube comments on today's episode. It's been a while. I want to see what you guys are talking about. But should we be prepared, and for how long, for life without Joe Mixon, as his status is currently up in the air? Will he be ready for week one? That starts to look more and more difficult to say. John Metchie to the Philadelphia Eagles. Texans add to their tight end room. We got to dive into the importance of that trade and looking at the tight end room moving forward, and also how this wide receiver room is shaping out for itself, which, honestly, not a lot of star names compared to last year, but this wide receiver room quietly has put together a very good and strong camp, and Houston likes the guys that they have in their room. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Now, the Texans sent John Metchie to Philly for Harrison Bryant. The two teams swapped day 3 picks. This swap reinstates the original day 3 pick exchange from their earlier trade involving C.J. Gardner-Johnson. A lot of great news coming out of camp right now for CJGJ, who, because of the trade, got his number 8 jersey, and Houston is prepared to see him earlier than expected, which is a good thing. But that trade involving CJGJ and Kenyon Green, in essence, the picks are being swapped back. When I say this, I mean it. JMA was having an amazing camp. We saw him have a great preseason game 1 against the Vikings, progressively getting better and building confidence. I thought he did enough to secure his spot on this roster, but that was me operating under the belief that Houston is going to carry essentially row with 7 receivers like they did in 2024. But now it looks like it'll be Nico, Kirk, Higgins, Noah, Xavier Hutchinson, who has been putting on a very good showing, and Braxton Berrios, the vet, that who has also been playing very well. He got a score in the first preseason game. He's been reliable for Houston. And then you also just look at the similarities of him being in the Miami offense and understanding some of the logistics and languages that the Houston Texans will kind of run here in Houston at times, because Miami, Shanahan, we know that Kaylee spent time on the McVay, Shanahan, so that tree works together. But that 6 will be rounding out that room for Houston. Does Houston keep Justin Watson to make it 7? Not sure. But the decision did not shock me. If you remember, I said this last week. This was something that I noticed, and I was like, man, he's still out there. Remember this conversation? He also had 2 forced tackles. I do want to add that he played in the fourth quarter of a game, which was needed. No doubt about it. I mean, again, he's fighting for a spot. But it reminded me of how everything ended with Desmond King. If you guys remember Desmond King's last year in Houston, their preseason game, this is after they, I think, signed him back. And it was a whole bunch going on. Desmond King played all the way up into their fourth quarter in their last preseason game, and he was eventually let go by the Houston Texans. Now, I do want to fact check. Desmond King played into late third quarter of that final preseason game in 2024. This was after Houston brought him back, after they brought him back again, right? And obviously, if you guys remember, there was some little tension in the locker room between King and some of the coaching staff. But it's unfortunate. Houston lost Brevin Jordan, and obviously they wanted to bring in a body at the tight end spot to replace what Jordan can bring to this team. And for Harrison, Houston is getting a player that 75% catch rate, 0% drop rate, indicating a solid catching, reliability as a player. Low average depth of target, 3.5 yards. That suggests he's primarily used in short range situations, screens and flats, right? With the hope that he can take something short and maybe gain some extra yards. Yak yards in 2024, 7.9, also reflects the ability to gain yards and create some plays downfield underneath to get a first down here and there. Ideal as a rotational H-back or a motion screen type of player where you can see more of his impact. A depth tight end rather than, of course, every down starter. Houston has an every down starter tight end in Dalton Schultz. But I don't think it's really about what Harrison can do for Houston, because this still puts Houston in a position to carry 3 tight ends like they did to start 2024, excluding what they may or may not do with Jakob Johnson, who I think has earned himself a role here on this team, has done some excellent blocking out of the backfield, and, of course, part of the Frank Roth troop for special teams. But I think this move really does open up flexibility, but what they can do to preserve the running back room due to the status of Joe Mixon, which is where, I'll talk about it in the next segment. As of right now, Nick Chubb, DP, Dare, Woody Marks, Jawar Jordan, Jakob Johnson at fullback. Houston may be leaving room open to carry more running backs on this roster in preparation for life without Joe Mixon. What does that look like? And should Texan fans start to be worried? More here on the Locked On Texans podcast. Don't go nowhere. We're talking Texans. Perfect opportunity to let you guys know that August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions, preseason hunches. Just for 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champion before week 1 even kicks off, this moment is yours. You feel like C.J. Stroud has what it takes with this new offense and how well the offensive line has been able to protect him in the short amount of opportunities we've seen him out there on the field, whether it's practice or preseason? Well, go ahed and make C.J. Stroud your MVP pick. If you're really feeling big and bold, go ahead and say the Texans will be the champions. It's August right now, way too early. But if you're feeling big and bold, go ahead and pick the Texans to win the Super Bowl and see how that plays out. Visit FanDuel, the app, today and start planning your future bets now, because Future Day is one day and one day only. So FanDuel, visit FanDuel, play your game. Again, visit FanDuel.com. Welcome back, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. As we talked about in the first segment, Houston moving on from John Metchie. Listen, I'm happy for Metchie to get him an opportunity. I think that once you get past A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, the Philadelphia Eagles couldn't use some depth, and Metchie was having a great camp. Regardless of that first week, since then he's been put together strong moments after strong moments, and so I'm happy to see his opportunity moving forward with the Philadelphia Eagles. But here in Houston, and listen, they like their guys. They like the guys that they have kept, obviously. Seeing reports from Tuesday practice that, hey, listen, they like Xavier Hutchinson, and he's done himself a very good service. Now he's looked at as potentially the third wide receiver for Houston, maybe bumping himself up over the rookie Jaden Higgins, who was the Texans' first draft pick in the 2025 draft. Life without Joe Mixon, though. Let's talk about that. What you love to see is Houston getting a good assessment of where the offensive line is and which running backs they'll be able to trust will keep around on the practice squad in case they have to break the glass in case of an emergency. Listen to Nick Kelly talk about the running back group and just how impressive he's been with those guys. I also talk about Dameon Pierce as well.
Yeah, I would say this. Damien's played a good amount of football. He's a physical, violent runner. You get to see him out here. It's not like this is an unknown commodity. So whatever we feel is best for the reps, that'll be it. But, I've watched Damien. I've had an appreciation for him for a while. And, I think he wants to go out there and just be at his best every single day. And I'm excited to get him back out here with us. We have a very versatile group of guys as it is right now, as you guys can see. So I think that's a week-to-week deal, a field deal, but we have a lot of trust in whoever's out there. I think you see with that group, they've taken care of the football in their opportunities. They've been stout in blitz pickup. I've been very impressed with that group in terms of how they fit the window, get pads under pads, protect inside out. The things, the core axioms that we're asking, they've showcased, and I think that they understand the intent of what we're doing. So I've been happy with all of them.
Very good mentions there by Nick Caley, and I want to add to that. Hey, listen, man, those guys, we may not always see it during the preseason games, but Nick Chubb has had some good preseason practice moments where he's breaking off a couple of runs, right? We still kind of waiting to see Jawar Jordan out there have a big moment or two, but Jawar Jordan has had some really good days for the Houston Texans, and obviously Woody Marks, a fourth-round pick, he's had some good moments, and some of those moments we've been able to see live in the game, specifically going back to the game against Carolina. So, like, I think how – and Dare, who does an amazing job as a blocker, and the reliability he brings out of the backfield in terms of being a pass catcher, I think Houston is very okay with where they are right now. And I think because of how Houston has approached the preseason, figuring out what type of offensive line they have, that has put them to ease maybe in some of the categories of where they should be worried at, right? I think when we look at Texans first-team offense in 2024, I want to shout out Texans Jacob, who put this information out on social media. But Damian Pierce was the RB1 at the time. If you go back and look at last year, at least in terms of preseason, you got a 1.1 yards per carry rate versus 2025, Nick Chubb, 5 yards per carry. Woody Marks in the game against Carolina, 5.7 yards per carry. And if I'm looking further past running the ball, the ability to pass block, in 2024, 28.6 pressure rate, 2025, 11.1% pressure rate. And of course, Dare, looking at the first game against Minnesota, 5.8 yards per carry when he was out there with the starting offensive line bunch. So, I think they gave themselves a good indication of what each back can and can't do in preparation for life without Joe Mixon. And it's time we look at Houston realistically not having Joe for an extended period of time, and I wonder if this is his last season in Houston. Look at some of the cap considerations. If released before June 1st of 2026, the full remaining dead cap, which would be about $2 million, would accelerate into 2026. If released after June 1st, 2026, the dead cap remains $2 million in 2026, but the team gains full relief from his 2026 base salary, which is $8 million, for more cap flexibility. And you know what? This offensive line is going to continue to perform as well as they have throughout the season. I'm going to whisper this. I'm going to whisper this. I hope you guys are listening. Not having Joe early in the year might not only be it may not be a problem at all, but it also could be a good thing. If there is a running back in the NFL that deserves grace and deserves time away and deserves the ability to rehab his body, it's Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon has never had the benefit, at least for the past 4 to 5 seasons, he's never had the benefit of playing behind a stout offensive line or a dual threat quarterback that can open up other things for the running back, right? When you have the game plan for what the quarterback can do just as much or maybe even more than what the running back can do. Joe Mixon had an amazing year for the Houston Texans last year, but the fact remains is he was hitting the backfield a lot. He was hit behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage at a high rate. I want to say maybe a top 3 highest in the NFL. I can't remember the exact number, but Joe Mixon got hit a lot, guys. And I see the light. Ursary has shown Houston enough to justify leaving him at left tackle. He opens up running lanes. He creates creases, right? And for Houston, the plan should have always been limiting the touches for Joe early. Problem is when you have a player like Joe Mixon who wants to get out there, you kind of let that player get out there, right? And so now they're forced to, and now it seems he won't be able to go week 1. His status is up in the air. A while back, Aaron Wilson reported, a good friend of mine, listen, he's still slated for week 1, but now those sentiments changed. It's changed. Houston find themselves with a young, explosive back who can do it all in Woody Marks and two straight line vets who can wear down a defense in volume type of touches, right? So I think when the Houston Texans kind of look at their running back room again, just looking at Nick Chubb, DP, Nick Chubb, DP, Woody Marks, Dare, Jawar Jordan, and the fullback, Houston finds themselves in a position where they're going to have to look at their room and look at August 26th. Okay, who's going to be released on August 26th? Or do we trust the guys in our room enough to say, we got it? They've shown they are able to do the small things, right? As much as I talk about running backs don't get paid, the running backs don't get paid to block. But the reality is, yeah, you want your back to be able to run the ball and run the ball effectively, but they also have to be able to block pass protection. And both the young running backs have been able to show that they're trustworthy out there. I think looking at this group, the Houston Texans have right now, this is a trustworthy bunch. I think Nick Caley feels as though, hey, the guys that I have, they're doing something. Nick Chubb showed us he still has some juice left in the tank. Not sure where they kind of view Dameon Pierce, although everybody speaks highly of Dameon Pierce. So keeping him, I don't think is far-fetched, but where he ranks on the pecking order, like Dameon Pierce just can't come in week one and be ready to go. I personally believe we should see Dameon Pierce in the preseason game to close out the year, but I understand the thought of preserving him as a player. Woody Marks, as of right now, is undoubtedly the RB2 for Houston based on what we've seen and based on his running ability. He's able to make a man miss. His very first run of 12 yards, he made a man miss on the right side, cut back on the left side, and picked up 12 yards. Right? We know that he can be impactful in the screen game or just being able to dunk the ball off to him and get upfield. As of right now, the 1-2 punch of Nick Chubb and Woody Marks, Houston can sustain that because of how well the offensive line has been able to not only protect the quarterback, but opened up lanes for the running back. And I think that once we get to that first regular season game where they take on a damn good defensive line up front, Jared Verse, Brandon Fisk and them boys, they'll have a better assessment on, okay, the spot that we used to move on from John Metchie. So now we're keeping 6 receivers instead of 7. Do we use that spot to have some flexibility and bringing in a running back until Joe Mixon can return? On the other side of the break, YouTube comments, what y'all been talking about? I can't wait to dive into it. We got more Locked On Texans on the way. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with family or friends? Maybe it's game day. You suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where GameTime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group of friends to come out with you. GameTime makes it possible. GameTime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a low price guarantee that takes the worrying out of buying. GameTime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming MLB game. Astros, listen, I know you guys are kind of mad at CJ Stroud right now, but they are still in it to win it. Get out there and support the Stros. Also, seat views right in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you will be. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back, Locked On Texas listeners and viewers. You know, y'all know I love to hear from you guys and see what you've been talking about in the comment section. A lot of you guys, and shout out to the viewers on YouTube or whoever's been hitting me up on social media, but a lot of you guys have been doing a great job and just reaching out in terms of, hey, you want to be in the Locked On Fantasy League. Now it's full, so shout out to everybody. I can't wait to get active with y'all. The draft is this Sunday, but let's talk about what y'all been talking about in the comment section. And I think this is one of the better comments that I've seen as of recently. Sly Lord Zeke. Now we need to see what Dameon Pierce is going to look like, and if he looks just as good as Chubb, then we know Joe going to eat this year. I 100% agree with that. The necessity, the need to see Dameon Pierce. Though Dameon Pierce, once fan favorite, we also can acknowledge that, especially based on the sample size of the rushing attack that we've seen in the 2 preseason games, like this fits Dameon Pierce and his skill set. With all that being said, Dameon absolutely needs game reps. Now, if you remember last preseason, he didn't get a lot of those reps. DeMeco Ryans felt like they know what they had out of Dameon, and they are confident in what Dameon can do. And so they're going to make their decision ultimately. I do think that because competition has been a point of emphasis, and not only has it been a point of emphasis, but it's also been an action of emphasis. Like they have really took that competition and used it to evaluate guys who are going to be around or the pecking order of everything. I think Dameon needs to be thrown in that mix as well. Also, AZ in the X factor. Do you think Nick Chubb can make a good impact, like in goal line situations for the Texans? Love Joe Mixon, but we did struggle some games in the red zone. Absolutely. And, Nick Chubb is one of those players that can get real low in between big bodies to where it's kind of even hard to see him. Not a big guy, man. I mean, like he's built big, but Nick Chubb is a shorter guy. So when you look at getting down in the red zone, wanting to see him kind of use his height to his advantage, that's where I believe Nick Chubb will have a good advantage. And also, I think Joe Mixon did a very good job given what was in front of him. And that's the honest to God truth. Like, there are moments in 2024, again, where you would see Joe Mixon just hit before he has a chance to get to the line of scrimmage. And that also carried into the Houston Texans' problems in the red zone to where they may got down there. But because of the play calling and the predictability of it, we just kind of knew teams were kind of knowing, like, okay, this is a play where Joe Mixon is going to get the ball. And because of that, and also because of the offensive line woes, that led to Joe Mixon being hit in the backfield a good number of times. So, yes, I do think Nick Chubb, him being in Houston will be a different dynamic for the Houston Texans to have a real quote-unquote red zone back, but better offensive line play, especially once Joe Mixon returns, that's going to help out every running back on this team. Al D, Texas Smoke Barbecue. Al D, if you hear this, you can't have Texas Smoke Barbecue in your name and not know how to barbecue. So I want to try that barbecue. You know what I'm saying? We gotta link up. But you mentioned a division good as swept. Daniel Jones is now the starting quarterback in Indy. The Tennessee Titans ain't got no receivers to throw the ball to. And Trevor Lawrence still being goofy out there and falling on his butt, right? Could Houston go 6-0 in their division? I don't know. Y'all killed me in the offseason when the schedules dropped, and I said, hey, listen, man, they're going to sweep the Colts. But typically, Tennessee and Jacksonville, they'll get one, right? But based off of what I saw, yeah, they're going to sweep them. Yes, the Houston Texans are going to sweep the division. I think that they will. The Texans may literally be able to run away with the division if they're able to continue to block. Saw a few comments upset about C.J. Stroud wearing the Mariners hat. Listen here, guys. It don't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just a hat. It's all about swag. And I think that's exactly what he said, man. He came into the stadium, you look good, you feel good, you play good. And I think that was probably just a fit he threw on and was like, nah, I feel it. I look good. I feel good. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to play good. That's exactly what we saw. So I don't think that nobody should take that shouldn't be a real talking point or an emphasis. Last comment, 4 Horsemen unhinged. So glad Bobby is gone. I think we can all say that, hey, man, it's a good thing that Bobby Sloak is no longer here. Just based off of so the one thing that I really criticized Bobby for last year, how often did we see the Houston Texans struggle to get to play and have issues at the line of scrimmage? And, by the time we're looking up, they're taking away their own tempo because of their own inability to move at a pace where the players coming in on time. They have time to make audibles or checks at the line of scrimmage and get the playoff. That was an issue last year. C.J. Stroud actually talked about some of the great teams that he's watched in the tempo that they play with. Don't see that this year to this point. And that's what I like probably the most from this Nick Caley offense. When I say things like it's concise, anything that's concise is sure of itself. And this offense has looked to be sure of itself. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Sorry about not getting a show out like I normally do around 7, 8, and 9 o'clock the evening before. Internet issues. I had to chop some of this up, but thank you guys for listening. Got another show, the Squad Show, Tuesday night, so that's going to be fire and fun. Until next time, ladies and gents and Texan fans across the nation, peace.